Welcome to this video coverage for round 6 of the Sinquefield Cup, currently held in St. Louis, USA. Yeah, round 6. After 5 rounds, we have Caruana leading the field with 5 out of 5. Yeah, very outstanding performance. And in this round 6, we'll see if he can continue his winning streak. Yeah, I look at all the games. This time, really looking at one game in a little bit more detail. The two others a bit briefly. Let's start with Nakamura, Aronian. Yeah, they both have a really rotten tournament. Let's see if they can do something in this game to improve. Yeah, Nakamura with 1 e4, and we get the Berlin. Yeah, Aronian does not play that so often. He mostly plays a6, and going for more complex middle games. Yeah, the Berlin, of course, now white has a choice. He can play d3, yeah, keep pieces on board, or go for the ending. Nakamura is going for a third option, not playing d4 here, which leads to the famous Berlin Wall ending, this thing. Or there also is the move rook e1, and this is what he played. This is one of the lines that, to be honest, a little bit deters me as from playing the Berlin as black in some games. I had considered looking at this opening for black. But this is one of those lines where you're actually never ever going to win a game with black. You are probably not going to lose many, but it is a very, very solid choice for white. Bishop e7, we need to block the e-file, and now Nakamura just went back to f1. Yeah, black has various possibilities. He can also play with knight f5 in this position. He exchanged now and castled. The reason why this is so boring in a way is that it's a lot looking like a French exchange where both sides have castle short, like d4, d5 sometimes happening. In this game, d4, d5 didn't happen because Nakamura tried something really funny. He went to d5 quickly, and now rook to e2. Very original setup. After c6, he went to e3. Yeah, the idea is really to play knight f5 and going to e7. We will see that this is really happening. The queen e1. Yeah, note that d5 is punished by this funny move. So bishop f6 and now knight f5. So he has lost a ton of time for this maneuver, but at the end, check, he managed to get to e7 with the knight and trade off one of the bishops. So white here has won the bishop pair, but yeah, well, look at the position. Those bishops are not exactly great at the moment. They are a long-term asset, but pretty hard to activate. It looks like yeah, somehow white has not developed anything. He's got everything on the first 2 ranks. And black has pretty decent pieces. He will now activate queen, and the knight will come to e6. So I think that this should be about equal, this position. Black has very good piece coordination to compensate for the bishops. Plus, at the moment, a bishop, for example, coming here, we'll just look at this pawn wall. Yeah, here Nakamura played something really extraordinary. He played queen to a5. Attacking a7. Aronian simply ignored that, as queen a7 can be answered with, amongst others, with knight b5. We can look at this. Let's say here black has, or let's say you capture first, it's also possible. Get the tempo, and then something like this is going to happen. This is leading to a very good compensation for black, something that white definitely does not want to have. Yeah, what did Nakamura do? Yeah, he played, just remember, he just played queen a5, rook e8, he went back to e1. That's really a funny maneuver. It cost him lots of time, probably being frustrated what he just did. There was a funny tweet by Garry Kasparov who wrote that, did Nakamura really just play queen a5 and back to e1? Question mark. This is all too subtle for an old retiree. Yeah, okay. I don't know. It's hard to understand. Maybe he, with queen a5, he really was thinking he could take the pawn, and it after all seemed too dangerous to him. We can, maybe if you're not convinced, look at this a bit more. Yeah, queen. We have maybe rook e8 first. Yeah, bishop f3, knight d4. This kind of thing. This can easily lead to troubles for white. He has nothing developed. Something like this, for example, is a very problematic initiative. Yeah, c2 hangs. If you play a slow move like this, for example,
check,
you're going to get attacked very severely. h5 is just one move here, but a strong one. White really should not risk this. So queen e1 is, relatively speaking, probably one of the better moves. Yeah, but here with black even have gained this time, queen a5, e1 back, he should have no problems. Yeah, we got to this position. It's quite interesting with d4 and c4. A little bit of an asymmetrical transformation. Black definitely has a good player. He's got the d pawn and no bad piece, so he has nothing to worry about. There's still play left. b4, an interesting move, intending maybe rook b1, b3 to activate the rook. And Aronian quickly played actively with d3. Yeah, activating here. Rook b1, rook d8, and now we have d2 in the mix. Yeah, bishop d2 to stop that, and bishop g5. Yeah, this blockading bishop should be traded. Yeah, black has enough counterplay. Attacks here and attacks here. Counterplay because the d3 pawn is very likely to get lost, so you need some compensation for that. We now got those trades in, and at the end of this, black will take here. Yeah, this position is just equal. White has a slight symbolic advantage with the bishop. He will also get one of the pawns back, of course, but it's nothing serious at all. This was played g6, yeah, to get some luft for the king. Go to g7, bishop c4,
check,
and now we saw those trades. Yeah, queen e6 is something
check,
that also does not lead to anything. Yeah, black can easily hold this. Yeah, something
check,
like this. I'm sorry, this was of course wrong. Need to go here. To have
check,
queen e7 if there's a check on the 7th. This is in fact something that white shouldn't go for, as black has got the a pawn. It's still a draw, but no use to do that.
check,
Yeah, they played like that. I think they
check,
put some
check,
more moves on
check,
the board
check.
to draw now. Yeah, so a game that in a way shows that this is not Nakamura's tournament. This queen a5, queen back business is really quite funny. Yeah, but the position is just so stale that even with white losing this time, there wasn't really going on much. So I think a pretty correct draw here. Okay, next game will be Carlsen against MVL, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. Let's see what the world champion can do. The only chance that he still has to do something against Caruana winning the tournament is to start winning now. So let's see what he did. Played e4, and we get with some transposition, we get an accelerated dragon. It's a little move order finesse here with knight c3. MVL is playing the knight off, of course, usually. And for a knight off player, knight c3 is a slight issue. You need to play d6 or a6 to get to the knight off, as you don't want to commit the knight to c6. And after d6, white has some additional ideas with f4, for example. So this is a little trick. But okay, this is a line that is very much playable for black as well. So here we go. Yeah, after the game, I think Maxime stated that he had confused move orders here. He wanted to play queen a5 here, yeah, to force basically white to castle, but he castled first and only now played queen a5. And here white has some additional ideas. For example, what Carlsen played with f3. It's nothing dramatic, but it sort of he stumbled into this position without knowing it too well. Okay, and we quickly see that he really hasn't studied it that much, it seems. Here, after e takes d5, it seems that black should play knight takes d5, which seems a little bit counterintuitive to exchange pieces, but it has one very distinct advantage. If you look at this position, here white is lacking the natural move queen d2 to connect rooks and coordinate the whole army. This is a problem now for white. Problem, relatively speaking. He should probably play something like this. And now black can, for example, go to e5. And this is okay for black. Yeah, he has this knight c4 ideas. And it's not clear how white is going to increase the pressure in short order. In the game he took with the pawn, and after queen d2, black is already in some trouble. The problem is that this queen position allows all kinds of tactics, and we see this soon. Rook e8, rook d1, and now he played bishop d7, which allows one of those mentioned tactics. It's however difficult to recommend something else or much better. It's really a bit difficult already, and also it's not so clear how bad the whole position is. Well, he played bishop d7, and after that Carlsen now started the tactical operation he took. Now bishop takes is answered by bishop d4, which is a very one-sided affair. White has a very nice blockade and has chances to long-term exchange those bishops. That's a very uncomfortable position. Yeah, white can even think about playing something like queen f2 and sometimes push the g-pawn. It's a bit of a risky business, but it can be considered. White also just can pile up on d5. He took with the pawn, and this here allows one of the operations that I mentioned, knight takes d5. Very typical thing with the queen on a5 being unprotected. Now black has no choice. He must take on d2.
Check.
Knight takes, bishop takes, bishop takes. And at first it looks like there's nothing going on as black takes on b2. However, white has a point, and the point is bishop c3. That's a very strong move, and the only reason why this is something that white should go for. Yeah, black must take this desperado bishop. No choice. And then rook d7. And here we have a typical situation. These two pieces put enormous pressure on the f7 pawn. And black has a hard time to defend here, as his bishop is basically a spectator. It can be placed, let's say, on b6, and I think it appears there later, but it does not attack anything, while white is always piling up here on f7. We see this happened, and it's very logical. It's clear that black is on the ropes here. Very difficult to defend. In fact, my initial reaction when I saw this position, okay, this is a 1-0, it will take time, but Carlsen will somehow win this, as he is so great in technical positions. And we see that this, in a way, was pretty much smooth sailing for quite a while. It feels very natural. Black was giving up this pawn. Okay, he has no way to defend f7 anyway. So we get to this, and here, by the way, black went to h8. If he goes to h6, the big problem is that something like h4 and possibly g4, g5 is a mating net. This will be very ugly and possibly not defendable. This is why he went to h8, which is not nice, of course. You don't want to place passively. However, as bad as this looks, it is not very clear cut how white should win now. It is of course very much better for white, but you don't really you cannot really point out a very clear winning plan. I think that Carlsen played all the obvious moves. I mean, at least obvious looking to me. If we continue a bit, activating
Check.
the king.
Check.
Yeah, all this looks normal. Here, King c4 looked a bit more normal than King b2, but it's probably not much of a difference at the end. Yeah, he pushed his pawns, and this looks also very normal. G5 is an idea to set up a mating net. Yeah, let's say to demonstrate if black is simply ignoring everything here. There is
Check. Checkmate.
this mating idea. One reason why the pawns were advanced in the first place, to set up this. Black must fight against that and went for rook h2. And we now get a transposition, or let's say transposition is wrong, transformation. Yeah, white is attacking here the c pawn, and we have now exchanges on the king side. This was played. Yeah, this is a good move that attacks here and makes sure that black gets a passer on his own. Now white has two passed pawns, the f pawn and the c pawn, but black has the h pawn. And it's, I think, something that black welcomes, that he has some source of counterplay with the h pawn. You don't want to have a purely sit and wait position where you can do nothing. I think around here we need to start to look for improvements for white. I mean, this looks very normal, putting it on e4, rook h1. And I'm not really sure where Carlsen now went wrong, so I'm doing a little bit of a spoiler here. What he played was not sufficient to win, a bit untypically. I mean, he's probably the greatest technical player around, but he didn't manage this. Maybe it is not winning. It's possible, but I'm not really sure. I can tell you one thing. Let's look at the game. He went f4, rook h3, c3. Yeah, black pushed the h pawn, and with this h pawn push, yeah, he had enough counterplay to finally get the rooks traded, and ultimately, with the king and the promotion, get the e pawn. This is a very long, this is a long sequence of 12 moves, but it unfolded pretty logically, with h4 being pushed and h-pawn ultimately getting traded for the f-pawn. This endgame, this arising endgame, is definitely a draw. There is absolutely no winning chance for white. We can look at this at the end. So somewhere in this sequence of moves, from here to here, there must be some way to improve, because if it is not winning for white, definitely there must be some way to make it harder for black to defend. While I was analyzing, I was also looking at statement of the players or something. Sometimes they give some hint after the game what they were thinking. I couldn't find anything substantial other than that Carlsen was thinking he should have a win somewhere, but couldn't really point out at which point. I also found that there were comments by Grandmaster Alejandro Ramirez, and he said that he didn't like the moves f4 and f5. That white should have white should have this pawn on f3 to have a base for the bishop. This is very much true. Very often you want those supporting pawns for your bishop, and maybe this also can be a good blocking piece on the fourth rank, so that white might advance the c pawn. So this is possible. Maybe those moves f4, later f5 were the source of source is wrong, but were causes why this game ended in a draw. But this is a very difficult thing with limited time to determine how could white win here. Let's look at the final the final end game, where here the h pawn and the e pawn were traded. Yeah, why is this a draw? We can look at this because at first glance it might not be so apparent, as white is going to walk to a6 and even win the a pawn. The problem is it is a fortress. I can put up the exact draw position here. Here they agreed to a draw, and this is a situation where even engines are completely they don't understand the position. It's still the case. This is totally dead, but if you give it to Stockfish, for example, it would still give an advantage for white, substantial one, and it's totally dead. Yeah, king a8 is very easy to understand. There, black is just shuffling. Yeah, this bishop is always covering a7, and white can push all the way here, and it's just a shuffling till the end. Okay, so to a6 then. Okay, black is still shuffling. And the problem is you never get anywhere. This bishop is always staying on this diagonal, and white can put up the pawn here, a6, and we're still shuffling. And you can give this the engine. I have Stockfish here, depth 60, still plus 1.6. Okay, it's just a total draw. White will never ever advance the pawn. And yeah, this is how this game ended. Certainly very disappointing result for Carlsen. He's really not in great shape. He wasn't at the Olympiad. It wasn't terrible at the Olympiad, but it also wasn't good. He lost 2 games there. And this event is not much better. Maybe he's really very much distracted by the issues around the upcoming, or not upcoming, you don't know, World Championship match. Okay, now the game by the tournament leader, Caruana playing Topalov. Yeah, Topalov certainly a bit of a joker in this tournament. He had played good enterprising games and really terrible games, to be honest. It was a roller coaster ride. Let's see what happened here. Caruana playing e4 as he usually does, and we get an open Sicilian with a6. Yeah, this is an interesting line for black. This move has gained some popularity in recent years. They normally just played queen c7, the Taimanov variation. This has, this is still a very popular line, but the rise of the bishop e3, queen d2, f3 setup, even here in the Taimanov, has led black players to look for different move orders. And a6 is a move order that is quite interesting against this bishop e3, f3 setup, as the queen is not committed to c7 yet. This very often is an important little detail for black. However, a6 allows a different variation, and this is the capture. This is what Caruana played. It's a bit uncommon to take on c6 in the Sicilian, and in the vast majority of lines it's also not very promising. Here, however, it's a bit of a difference, and one point is that the move a6 is not very helpful here for black. In this structure, he basically has lost a move with a6, and very often you could argue that the pawn would be better on a7. However, it is nothing that black should be afraid of. I mean, it's a normal position. Okay, we get some normal developing moves. Rook e1, bishop e7, all very normal. Yeah, now e5, knight d7, queen g4. This, it seems, has been played before. And Topalov now played king to f8. Nowadays, a move like that is not, is not something that is very surprising. Let's say that people give up their castling right. The older move here is g6, which has been played in the majority of games by Aronian, for example. King f8, however, is a move that also Caruana played. He played this move in the Olympiad only about a month ago against the Grandmaster Solak from Turkey. And he played a draw at the end, and he also had this position earlier as white against Swidler. Swidler played g6, however, in June. So what about king f8? Is this a good move? Yeah, it's certainly an interesting move. And we quickly get to a crisis. Knight a4 is played. Yeah, this might look a bit weird if you don't know this line, but it's a fairly typical way to play, as white wants to have the move c4 available to nibble at the pawns. And he also needs to have something. If black plays c5, you want to have c4 as well. Queen a5 was played. And here Caruana played the move rook e2. Yeah, this was afterwards mentioned to be a new idea, this move rook e2. It once you look at it, it looks fairly logical. White wants to prepare bishop t2. It also it depends a bit on the upcoming line. h5 was played, queen f4, and g5. That's a very enterprising approach, very typical of Topalov. And of course, it makes some sense to play that once you have played king f8. Yeah, it's, if you wanted to play something like g6, you could have done that earlier and not play king f8. One big point here is that white, of course, he has to do something about this knight, and he has no square for the queen, so he plays bishop d2. It's a funny tactical point of the rook e2 idea. Yeah, here's the first critical position. It seems that here black could have taken on f4. Yeah, let's look at this. Black could have taken, bishop takes, and then a move maybe like rook g8 or h4. Yeah, this is in fact interesting. It looks somewhat weird because the pawn on f4, it looks like a bit disconnected from black's other pieces, but he has some activity going, and with the pawn being on f4, the e5 pawn also needs some attention. So this might be a really decent position for black. I think it was also mentioned by Caruana afterwards that this was a definite alternative that black could have played. Topalov didn't do that. He went for queen c7, which might not be bad, but it was an interesting alternative to go for the capture. Queen g3, h4 played, and queen g4. Yeah, and I think the next move is the cause of Topalov's trouble later in the game. I can be that I can tell you that this is much of a spoiler. He played rook g8 now, and this turns out to be really bad, it seems. The first thing to notice here is that knight takes e5 is not possible. Yeah, you cannot do that because of this rook in the corner. However, h3 was an interesting alternative. That leads to very double-edged play. It's yeah, it's a bit crazy, but interesting. If white now captures, black at the end will take here, and yeah, probably will have some compensation. Yeah, he's got the h file open, and maybe long term really can get something going, especially if you consider that the white queen maybe will not stay on g5 all the time. Let's say bishop b7, sometimes king e7, rook g8. This is something, and note that bishop b7, c5, d4, the long diagonal is something that the black bishop will definitely yeah, be happy to occupy. That's interesting. That's an interesting position. White also had g3 after h3. And here we have an interesting situation. Black here can play bishop b7, something like that. But he can also think about, it's very risky, but he can think about taking. One point is that here d4, if white now takes with the bishop, you have the funny move queen d5, which threatens mate. It's a very difficult thing to see beforehand, but a funny motif. Yeah, h3 is probably the justification of black's play, but this is sometimes happening to Topalov. He's playing so aggressively and so, let's say, yeah, it's very often he reaches a point of no return where he needs to find those absolutely only continuations that keep the flame burning in a way. And he sometimes does not manage to do that when he's not in top shape. He went rook g8 now, and now white played rook a to e1. Yeah, centralizing, and this pretty much is the completion of the rook e2 idea. Now e5 is very securely protected, and it's very difficult now to see any counterplay for black. The queen on g4 is blocking the king side. There is no h3, I just take that with the queen. And what exactly is black's play? What he tried is probably right. c5, c4, and the capture to get the diagonal open. I think white is better here in any case, because here you really don't see any compensation for the somewhat fishy king position. Yeah, where is your active play here? But okay, it's not a lost position, but black really is under lots of pressure. h3, a good prophylactic move. Yeah, making sure that h3 is never really happening, and it gives some luft for the king. Rook d8, bishop c3, supporting the pawn. Knight to d8, to b8. I'm sorry. Yeah, the knight on d7 wasn't doing much, and maybe we get it here. Rook e3, and here we have the absolute key position of the game. While black is clearly not in great shape, it is still not clear how white is going to continue. If black now would have played bishop d5, combating this bishop on c4, white is definitely better, but it's not apparent how he should win quickly. Like b3, for example, you just have the better structure. 2 pawn islands against 3 weaknesses. So white is better, but not a win. It would still be a hard day's work. However, Topalov played knight c6, and when he played knight c6, he overlooked a tactical detail. Caruana now took some minutes and then took on e6. Of course, Topalov had seen the move. This is a very obvious move. It's the first move that any good player would consider in the position. But he made a calculation mistake in the lines that follow. He took on e6 now. What else? You cannot let the bishop stay there.
Check.
And after rook f3, what he had initially planned was not working. Topalov thought that he could go to g7, after which queen h5 is very obvious, threatening mate. Rook f8, and here he had overlooked the point rook f6. And rook f6 is the finishing touch to this line. Here white is of course totally winning. Yeah, something like this.
Check.
And here white can take with a win, or if you want to be very cruel, you even have this move, threatening knight e6, which is quite strong as well. But queen g5 is simple and good. Yeah, he had overlooked this rook f6 idea, and then all of a sudden saw that, okay, you cannot go to g7, you must go to e8, and this is definitely not where you want to be with your king. Yeah, Caruana now just took on e6, and yeah, this attack is simply super strong. The rook here is attacked, and yeah, where should it go? It's very difficult. If the rook, let's say, moves to h8 to start with this, white simply can take on c5. Yeah, he has the bishop pinned, so knight c5 controls d7, and your threat is simply to play queen g6 and curtains. Yeah, that's just devastating. Something like this.
Check. Check.
Wins the queen. Yeah, and the rook really has nowhere to go. It is attacked. He needed to go to g7. He did that. I mean, rook g7 was played. And now queen h6 is the point. No? The rook is attacked. And yeah, what should black play? In the game he played knight d4. But there really wasn't a good choice anyway. If you go to g8, for example, white plays e6 and now threatens queen h5 and over. Yeah, something like that.
Check. Checkmate.
Is a mate. The king is just killed in the middle of the board. Yeah, Topalov tried knight to d4. The last attempt to continue. Yeah, and here white had a number of wins. You can also just take on g7. This is, for instance, queen g7, knight takes,
check.
Pawn takes. And here the attack is simply too strong. I mean, you need to see that white has not even sacrificed something. Here he's 2 pawns up and has this attack. Let's say king d7, e6 check. Oops, and bishop e5. Those kind of things are simply resignable. Yeah, queen g7 was winning, but Caruana took some minutes and then played the flashiest move, played e6. Yeah, it's not necessary to do that, but you have the time to calculate and are confident, then why not? e6 wins. Sorry, this wasn't intended. Threatens queen h8. Made in 2, and black really has nothing else. He needs to take on f3. Yeah, I mean, something like it's just too simple. There is no reason to go for something like that.
Check. Check. Check.
Yeah, white can also just take here. By the way, so piece up everything. This is too much. Yeah, check. He took there and played bishop to f8, and yeah, here the game concluded with the check. King e7 only move, bishop g7, and here Topalov resigned, facing the line bishop g7, queen f7, check. King d6 and e7. Yeah, what a beating! Yeah, it really happens if you play a very sharp and double-edged position, and you make those. I mean, rook g8 was not good, and then yeah, you place this burden on yourself to find those moves, like bishop d5 that need to be played, and one further misstep really leads to the defeat, like here. Yeah, and very nice game by Caruana. But certainly a bit helped by Topalov, who stumbled somehow into this preparation. It's a bit surprising, considering that if you notice that this was played by Caruana as black, so he definitely needed to have some preparation for him playing this as black. It is clear that Caruana knows quite a lot about it if he ventures this with black. So a bit surprising that he didn't have any big recipe here after rook e2. Yeah, note that he played, if you look at the times, this was played very quickly, but now he started to think, which seems normal for us, yeah, but for those top professionals, he really should have some idea prepared against rook e2. You could ask the question, yeah, what else? Huh? I mean, rook e2 is might be a new idea, but what else should white play? It's a much more interesting move, let's say, than c3 or something like that. I mean, well, c3 is probably not even possible due to the a4 knight. Yeah, okay. Now what can you do? Caruana, 6 out of 6. This is taking historic proportions. 6 out of 6 in a super top level event is very rare, and this being the, at least by rating, strongest tournament ever, makes it all the more remarkable. Yeah, he's very clearly the world's #2 at the moment in terms of rating, and in this shape, a very serious challenger for the world title. But okay, he might get his shot later. We have a hard time to predict how the World Championship title legacy will continue, as it is very unclear if Carlsen will defend in Sochi. And after that, it can get really messy. Once again, we had this two World Championship issue earlier. Okay, so thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this coverage, and I'll be back with round 7, of course, tomorrow. Thanks.